everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to talk about recertifying teaching credentials in Canada. I'm going to be giving you a step-by-step guide for future immigrants who would like to teach in Canada. I'm actually a teacher myself as well, and so I know a little bit about this subject. So good morning everyone, my name is Benedetta and I'm a career advisor for Canada Central. Today we will be discussing one of the most important steps for internationally trained teachers planning to build a professional career in Canada: recertifying your job credentials so that you can legally teach in Canadian primary or secondary schools. We're going to explore why this is necessary, the recertification process, the Canadian Teacher Certification Framework, a step-by-step credential recognition process, a province-by-province requirement, common pitfalls and how to avoid them, and practical tips for a smooth transition into the Canadian education workforce. So to understand a little bit about why this is required, this recertification process, in Canada, teaching is a regulated profession, just like, doctors and lawyers and accountants, architects. Each province and territory has its own teacher regulatory body, an official licensing authority that ensures that educators meet the standards, the education standards. The reasons for this is threefold: child safety and education quality. So Canadian authorities have to verify whether you are academic and professionally trained and meet our standards. Curriculum and cultural adaptation. So even if you have years of teaching experience abroad, Canadian curricula, teaching methods, and classroom management expectations may differ, and they do quite extensively. So the legal requirement is also important. So without this, you cannot be hired as a teacher in the public school system in Quebec and in most of the private schools as well. Canada does not have a national teaching license because in Canada, the education system or the education requirements are provincially. It's a dossier that is managed by the provinces, so it's a provincial jurisdiction. Instead, you have to apply for certification in the province or territory where you plan to work. Once certified in one province, you can often transfer your license to another through labor mobility agreements, but you may still need to meet additional local requirements, including language requirements. Certification typically applies to either primary, elementary, or secondary high school levels, depending on your qualifications. The main provincial territorial teacher regulator bodies are Ontario College of Teachers, the Teacher Regulation Branch of British Columbia, the Alberta Education Teacher Certification, Manitoba Education and Early Childhood Learning Teacher Certification. Saskatchewan is the Saskatchewan Provincial Professional Teachers Regulatory Board. Quebec is the Ministère de l'Éducation. Nova Scotia is the Office of Teacher Certification. New Brunswick is the Office of Teacher Certification. The Newfoundland and Labrador are Teacher Certification Offices of Newfoundland and Labrador. Prince Edward Island has a registrar. It's the Teacher Certification and Standards. And the Yukon, Northwest Territories, and Nunavut, teacher certification is usually administered through agreements with other provinces, often Alberta or British Columbia. Even teachers from other provinces are often recruited to these rural and remote provinces and territories where there is a lack of teachers. So step-by-step credential recognition process is another part of it. You have to choose the province or territory where you want to live. Visit this official teacher certification website for that jurisdiction and download the application guide for internationally educated teachers. Step 2 is you get your academic credentials assessed, and most provinces require an educational credential assessment or an ECA, which verifies that your foreign degrees are equivalent to our standards. Common ECA providers are the World Education Services, or the WES, Canada, the International Credential Assessment Services of Canada, which is the ICAS, the Comparative Education Service, CES, at the University of Toronto, International Qualifications Assessment Services, which is the IQAS, Alberta. While some provinces only accept assessments done directly through their own process, so always check before you spend the money on these assessments. Now, the next step is obviously to prepare your documents. So typical documents include passport, PR, visa, etc., degree of your certificates. Do you have a Bachelor of Education, a teaching diploma, master's, etc.? The official transcripts, which must be sent directly from your university to the licensing body, not by you. Proof of teacher education program completion, the proof that you have some teaching experience, which includes reference letters from your schools. You have to do a police clearance certificate, a criminal record background check, including vulnerable sector check in Canada. Language proficiency tests results as well are needed, so the IELTS or the YELTS academic, or CELPIP academic for English, or the TEF or TCF for French language proficiency. Now, even if English or French is your first language, you may still be asked to submit proof of proficiency. Typical benchmarks are, in the YELTS academic, a band score of 7.0 plus in all 4 skills. The CELPIP academic is level 9 or higher, and the TEF, TCF is advanced proficiency in French. Applying for certification is step 5. You complete the provincial application form, usually online, with fees ranging from $200 to $400 Canadian. Submit all your documents. Some must be sent directly to your institutions, from your institutions, as I said, and you have to pay the application fee. Step 6 is completing any additional requirements. So some provinces may require additional coursework, example, courses on Canadian curriculum, Indigenous perspectives, or special ed, practicum, which is your student teaching in a Canadian classroom, even if you have years of experience abroad, and an orientation program for internationally educated teachers. Step 7, if you're successful, you'll receive a teaching certificate, which allows you to apply for teaching jobs at provinces, public and private schools. The official job board for this is the Apply to Education Provincial School Boards. Network with other teachers, join teachers associations, and consider starting as a substitute or supply teacher to gain Canadian classroom experience. Now, some valuable province-to-province highlights include the Ontario Teachers College, or the OCT, requires proof of a minimum of 4 years of post-secondary education, including a 2-year teacher education program. They require a mandatory criminal record check from Canada, and they may require additional courses on the Ontario curriculum and legislation. In British Columbia, the Teacher Regulation Branch, or the TRB, requires degree plus teacher education program, specific focus on Canadian legal and cultural knowledge, and may require Foundations of Indigenous Education course. In Alberta, they require a minimum 4-year degree with 48 semester hours in professional teacher education, and language proficiency must be proven if degrees were not taught in English or French. In Quebec, certification is in French for most public schools, and you must meet the Quebec Ministry of Education requirements and may require upgrading studies in French language teaching. Common things you should try to avoid are not choosing your province early enough. Requirements differ, so decide where you want to go or where you're eligible to go. Submitting incomplete documentation, because delays can take many. Don't do that, because the reputable ones, the reputable private schools, they do. Some practical tips for the process to go smoothly. Start your recertification process before arriving in Canada. It can take 6 to 12 months. Keep multiple certified copies of your degrees and transcripts. Network with local teachers via social media and professional groups before you move. Consider related roles. So roles related to the teaching profession include assistant or educational assistant or a tutor while you wait for your certification, and budget for the costs of the application process, which includes application fees, ECA fees, translation costs, and additional coursework you may have to do. In conclusion, recertifying your credentials as a primary or secondary school teacher in Canada is a multi-step, province-specific process that requires careful planning, documentation, and a lot of patience. Even for local Canadian-born teachers, it is really a multi-step process, and it too requires patience. But the reward is worth it. Teachers in Canada enjoy strong employment prospects because we are lacking teachers. Competitive salaries, and I can speak to this myself because in Quebec anyway, where I teach in Montreal, we just renegotiated a new collective agreement, and you will get a high degree of professional respect from everyone. By researching your province's requirements, preparing your documents early, and meeting language and academic standards, you'll position yourself for a successful transition into the Canadian education system. I would like to thank you today for your time and for listening to me. I hope this was helpful and educational, especially as I said, I am a teacher myself and I have been for many years. From myself in Canada Central, we wish you good luck and we hope to see you soon with us in Canada. Thank you.